And then I am going to introduce Camille or let Camille introduce herself and we can get started.
Thanks, Luann. Hi, everybody. My name is Camille Harris. I'm the owner of Women and Family Wellness Studio, where we do parenting classes, counseling, and home postpartum support. I work with the Alliance as a neurodivergent, trauma-informed care specialist and provide trainings in those areas. I've been a counselor for 17 years and have been trained in evidence-based parenting programs for 15 years. And that is what I'm talking about tonight. I'm talking about two evidence-based parenting programs that DCYF contracts with agencies like mine to provide to families at no cost, families like yourself. So these are available to the parents who are involved with CPS. These are available to kinship care providers, suitable placement, foster parents, and post-adoptive if you're licensed through the state of Washington. Um, so our Washington state legislation requires that anyone who is under that umbrella I just listed, there's a pretty good list of different evidence-based programs that are available to you. So I'm just going to be talking about two tonight, but know that there are others out there. The two that I'm going to be talking about are called The Incredible Years and Triple P. The Incredible Years is pretty neat just because it's based out of University of Washington. Another one based out of University of Washington that is covered in the contract is PFR, Promoting First Relationships. That's just kind of incidental, but The Incredible Years has been around for several decades now. It's research-based, evidence-based. One thing really unique and special about The Incredible Years is there's been a lot of research and studies on how well it works for caregivers that have children with ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, autism, and just any conduct disorders. So that's a great thing about The Incredible Years. Um, The Incredible Years, I'm going to tell you the different programs, and then we're going to go through each of the programs in more detail. But the first program is for caregivers with or parents with babies, birth. The program says up to 12 months. We typically try to keep the babies 8 months and under. In that program, the babies are almost always there. We want the babies there. The way that the Incredible Years model works is we watch video examples of the topics, and then we have a lot of discussion. It's a very collaborative approach. Every week you get different handouts that you can use in your home. And then typically you have unlimited access to whatever therapist is providing those classes for you. So there's a baby parenting program. There's the toddler program, which is for caregivers of kids 1 up to 3. There is the basic or preschool program, which is for parents or caregivers of kids 3 up to 9. And then there's a school age program, which is for parents that have kids 9 up to 12. There's a little bit of, you can slide those numbers around a little bit, but in general, those are the 4 different age ranges and programs for the Incredible Years. After I explain the Incredible Years, then we'll get into Triple P, which is a different EVP. So, we're going to start with the baby program. I'm trying to get this little bar out of my way so I can see. Okay, so the baby program is 8 to 9 weeks. We typically meet once a week for an hour. This is an in-home program, so the therapist is going to be going into your home to provide that support. Before COVID, we did a lot of baby groups, which was incredible because all these caregivers or parents and other little babies, and it was wonderful. But since COVID, we've had a really hard time getting people to collect together like that. But anyways, so yeah, 8 to 12 week program. The first session, we're really dialing into reading your baby's cues, what are the different signals they're giving you, really learning how to understand your baby's cries. What are the different reasons babies cry, focusing on feeding baby, breastfeeding or bottle feeding. burping baby, understanding the importance of communication with your baby, so verbal and nonverbal, focusing on visual, auditory, and physical stimulation, what that looks like, how to baby-proof your home. Every single week we go through what the developmental milestones are. So for the baby program, we start at birth and then we go all the way up to 12 months with developmental milestones. So because it's an 8 to 9 week program, babies are going to be somewhere in that range, not all of the ranges during the class. And then the second session, and I'm just going to read some of these main bullet points. As you can see here, there's quite a bit more that I'm going to be mentioning, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to go through the really key ones. So in the second session, there's a heavy focus on observational learning, like what are you noticing about your baby? What does that mean you're learning about your baby? Mirroring how what you do affects what they learn to do. Learning about parentees, which is just that sing-songy voice, and really the value of talking to babies like that. How does that help them learn? How does it connect their neurons in their brain? What does it mean when babies have neurons that are connecting, and why is that important? We do a lot of singing to babies and why that's important for their brain development and that bond and attachment. Every single session, there's a focus on bond and attachment and how the caregiver can be gaining support because having a baby is so much work. We also, during every single session, focus on safety alerts and just really important safety principles. The third session is reinforcing that physical, tactile, and visual stimulation. Some of the things we do to teach about that is we teach you how to do baby massage. We talk about the benefit of baby massage, different baby exercises you can do, different things you can do to be encouraging that visual, tactile, physical stimulation. When we're diving into that topic, we're also doing a lot of practices with caregiver and babies on things like tummy time and how to roll over and how to encourage them to roll over and ways to support that. A lot of babies don't like tummy time, so we do a lot of practice with that. We practice different games you can do with your baby. And then moving into session 4, we start to focus more in on those developmental cues, like what are they letting you know they're at with their developmental milestones? What can you do to be encouraging the ones where they haven't reached yet? How do you help babies calm down if they're dysregulated, overstimulated? About 3 weeks to 3 months is when, if we're going to have a colicky baby, that's when that happens. So we go over colicky babies and how to support parents with that. What is purple crying? What does that look like? What does that mean? How to help babies calm down when they're crying, how to help parents calm down when they're crying, and doing all of this with a secure bond and attachment with the baby. And then moving into the last, I think 3 weeks it is. Yeah, the last 3 weeks, we're up to the developmental milestones of like the 6 to 9 month or 6 to 12 month range. So focusing on developmental milestones like how to be supporting baby with sitting up, crawling, teaching about object permanence. Again, like baby proofing the house once because they're so oral, they're starting to move around and crawl. How to know what a choking hazard is. How to involve other family members with your baby, and then we'll start to be learning about observational learning, object permanence. So if something slides under the couch to the baby, that means if they can't see it, as far as they're concerned, it's gone. Just like if you step out of the room, if they can't see it, you're gone. And so how to support babies with that. How to start introducing solid foods in a child-directed way. Um, baby Baby-led weaning or baby-led feeding, I've heard it 2 different ways, has become a huge trend right now. I don't believe there's data and research behind this. So that comes up actually quite a bit in the baby parenting classes, like, well, why can't I do it this way? I just know that this is an evidence-based, research-supported way of introducing solids to the program. So I feel always really confident and comfortable giving parents that guidance. So, and then again, understanding how to baby-proof your home. So that comes up, that safety component is very heavy in the baby parenting program, as is the gaining support for the parents. Those are the different things we go through with the baby parenting program. Luann, do you want me to just keep going with all of them? Yeah, okay. So then next we get into the toddler parenting program. So the foundation of this program is really on child-directed play and teaching children through play and interaction and engagement with the caregiver. So there's 3 to 4 weeks of a heavy focus on how to create that play and that attachment through play and how to teach kids through play. So with that, there's toddler language development happening through play. So using things like what we call descriptive commenting, being like a sportscaster, describing everything the kids are doing so that they're learning. Just a lot of focusing on child or language development in the toddler program. Again, we're really going to be going through those developmental milestones. Pretty much every week, we're checking those benchmarks for that stuff. And then again, through the play, we're teaching parents how to teach their kids social skills, how to teach their kids emotional skills. Toddlers are throwing tantrums, totally developmentally normal. Toddlers are biting. These are developmentally appropriate things. So we normalize that and also give parents, caregivers tools for how to address those concerns and that typical really challenging behavior. There's also a focus on how parents, caregivers can gain support for themselves. Some of the social skills we focus on pretty heavily are like meal times, bath time, grocery store, how to be doing those kinds of outings. And then we spend a couple weeks focusing on praise and encouragement, how to use that to direct and guide behavior you want to see more of. We move into spontaneous incentives and rewards for toddlers, how to do that systematically, and how to handle separations and reunions. This one is really helpful when children are having to do visitation with parents or biological family members, sibling. How to really support your child with setting up those routines and supporting them with the separation from you as a caregiver and when they have to separate from whatever biological person they're visiting with. And then we get to the discipline piece, which is how to use commands effectively, how to use an ignore strategy, ignoring negative behavior. And then again, there's more of a heavy support on parents gaining support because when we are having to use those discipline strategies, it's when we are dealing with really challenging behaviors with toddlers. So typically, caregivers need a lot of support with that. So then we also have the basic program, which is for caregivers of kids 2 to 6, 2 or 3 to 6. And in this program, again, it's very foundationally based on child-directed time, teaching kids through play. For this program, we just say like 5 to 15 minutes a day of that intentional time. It's very similar to the toddlers, except the vignettes, the video examples we use are with a little bit older kids. So we're going through those same topics of child-directed play, academic and persistence coaching to encourage them to do things that are hard for them. And then we're again going into that social and emotional coaching, teaching emotional regulation skills, and we're again still doing the ignore strategies, the routines, the reunions and separations. The additional piece that's added into the basic program is we also go over how to use timeout as a discipline strategy, and we go over how to handle misconduct, and we go into how to handle how to encourage problem solving in kids. And then the last program for the incredible years is the school age basic program for kids 6 up to 12. I think 9 to 12 is better suited for this program, but if you have a more mature younger child, you can push them into this program. And this one is how to create special time with your child. Very similar to the basic, but some things are a little bit different. So just that focus on that child-directed time, that special time. Again, the social, emotional, and persistence coaching. Again, praise and encouragement and rewards. Whoops. There's a little bit higher focus on teaching rules and responsibilities. It gives you tools about things like how to come up with contracts with kids for things like how much screen time they should get, clear and respectful limit setting, and then it's tying it into like school, like clear and effective limit setting with screen time, getting homework done, a little bit more responsibility there. There's the ignore strategy again, the timeout, and natural and logical consequences. So a lot of overlap, but much more specific to the age. And the school age program also has some optional sections you can add in about how to talk to kids about drugs, how to talk to kids about sex, how to handle kids that struggle with completing their homework, some really specific strategies for that, which a lot of people find really helpful. So the next program, can everyone see that? I switched screens. Yeah, okay. So then Triple P is also for kids 0 to 12, but then they have a teen program. And they also have a program that's specifically for caregivers that struggle with anger management and have high risk behaviors that could lead to child abuse or neglect. So a lot of similar components. One thing that's different about Triple P is there's a little bit of history about like how does the health of a child impact their function, the genetic makeup, how does the family environment affect the function, how do influences outside the home affect the function, and then they go into a lot more similar strategies. I'm just pointing out some of the differences. There's some focus on high risk situations, what to do there. So Triple P can be a more effective strategy if you have some higher risk kids in the home. Some of those are all the same. There's a focus on like family survival tips and problem solving for thinking ahead for the family, and it's for all ages, whereas the Incredible Years only does that for the older ages. And then Triple P also has a teen program, which is for caregivers that have kids 12 to 18. What's really great about this program, the Incredible Years, the baby program, is the only program where the kids are intended to be there. The rest of it, the instruction is intended for the caregiver, and the intention is that the kids are actually not with you so that you can focus on the curriculum and engage. The Triple P teen program, the goal is that the teen is there and the teen is a part of the curriculum and the program. So you'll see like in session 2, it's a session with a teenager, interview with a teenager. There's a lot more collaborative approach when we're working with the teens with the Triple P program. So some elements there are factors influencing the teen's behavior, things influencing outside the home. What's nice is it's the therapist trying to get that engagement from the teen. It doesn't have to be the caregiver trying to pull all that information out of them. Working with caregiver and child on what is positive parenting, what does appropriate behavior look like. Some of those same elements. I'm just going to try to highlight some of the key elements. How to identify family rules, clear and calm requests, logical consequences, acknowledging teenage emotions, routines for dealing with emotional behavior, which of course happens with teens, all teens. How to use a behavioral contract with problem behaviors, which the Incredible Years does have with a school age program, but this is specifically for teens. And again, the therapist is working with the teen and the caregiver. So lots of future goal planning, planning ahead, how to deal with risky situations. These elements become really helpful for a lot of caregivers who need support with teens, identifying the risky behavior, talking about the concerns and risks, select risk reduction strategies, etc. Yeah, and then there's a maintenance plan that the family comes up with for moving forward with everything that they've learned. And then this is the program I was telling you about that's for families that have a caregiver that has some anger management issues and potentially is at risk for child abuse or neglect. Um, so there's just a lot of strategies and goals there. How to understand the anger, how to use relaxation techniques, um, learning to understand your anger, and then again, like there's planning ahead for the future once you've got those tools in your tool belt. Whew, I talked a lot. Really fast.
I have a question.
Self. Go ahead, Carrie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Wynn, and I work at Within Reach. I have some slides prepared, so I'm gonna share my screen and I'll get those going. All right. I work at Within Reach, which is a nonprofit organization that serves the state of Washington. And my role is Help Me Grow Partnership Manager. And in today's presentation, I'm going to focus on Help Me Grow, which is a wonderful resources for parents and caregivers in Washington State. So a little bit about what is Help Me Grow. Help Me Grow is a free service that connects parents and caregivers to resources in their community. Some areas that we focus in on is connecting folks to resources around child development, food assistance resources, free or low-cost health insurance, or pregnancy and parenting resources, among others. And we're here to help connect you to those resources. We operate the Help Me Grow Washington statewide hotline. And so a navigator can help you kind of connect you to what resources you might be looking for. And we're here to support you. So that's a little more high level in terms of, yeah, those services that we can help connect you to. So we kind of work in four main bucket areas of, I mentioned food, health, family stability, and child development. I'll speak a little bit more specifically about those resources. So for food access security, that's really referring to, we can help submit applications for basic food or SNAP benefits, referral to WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children program. In terms of adult and pediatric medical care, our navigators can help enroll in Washington Apple Health and qualified health plans. Or again, if you have any questions around health insurance, what you're eligible for, and enrolling, they can answer questions about that. Referral to immunization clinics for free or low-cost vaccines. In our family stability supports area, we can help navigate different pregnancy, baby, and breastfeeding supplies or clothing banks, referrals to home visiting or other parent support programs. And again, these are just more high-level categories within, food, health, family stability, and child development. There's more, but I'm just highlighting kind of the key ones. And then when it comes to child development, we do offer the Ages and Stages questionnaire, which is a activity-based questionnaire that you can fill out and submit it online. And then a specialist will call you with the results and help connect you to further resources. One of those resources might be helping to connect you with your local early support for infants and toddler program. And so Within Reach, Help Me Grow Washington hotline is the statewide directory for the ESIT lead agencies. So wherever you are in Washington, you can connect with your lead agency, and then they can help connect you with the actual agency that would provide ESIT services. So yeah, they can help you navigate that. And then if you're in King County, we can submit a referral on your behalf and have that conversation of finding out what providers are in your area.
Sorry, what does ESIT stand for? Sorry, wasn't
Yeah,
sure
no
what that
problem.
acronym was.
It stands for Early Support for Infants and Toddlers. And it's a service that families could benefit from if they're needing some extra support for their child in terms of like developmental milestones. The evaluation is free, but then after that, there may be a cost with such as like speech therapy or occupational therapy. So eSIT is one of the resources that we might connect families to if they have a concern about their child's development, or if they do an ages and stages questionnaire, which is a screening, and if a parent might have a concern within their child's development and want more information, kind of a next step would maybe connecting to their local eSIT provider.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So a little bit about how does Help Me Grow work? So I mentioned the statewide hotline. So here's some steps to kind of walk you through that process. So our family resource navigators will help guide you every step of the way. So if you call our hotline, a friendly navigator will listen to your family's needs and kind of do an initial intake in what resources you might be looking for. Step 2, find the best resources for your family. Step 3, help you understand and apply for services and support. Step 4, follow up with your family to ensure that you received that support. And in between steps 3 and 4, I would say they will help submit a referral on your behalf or explain next steps in an enrollment application or whatever the case may be. And then step 5, offer any additional resource connections your family is looking for. There are also other ways to connect with Help Me Grow. So I kind of talked about you can call our statewide hotline. Kind of backing up, we do have, so you can search. You can visit the Parent Help 123 resource finder to find resources and services in your community. And I can drop the link in the chat. So it's a public kind of domain. There's over 6,000 resources in the directory. And in a couple slides, I'll kind of walk through how to navigate that. Number 2 is you can fill out a short form online to see if you qualify for state benefits. And once you submit that short form, then a specialist would give you a call back to help get you connected to Help Me Grow services. So here I'll just walk through the Parent Help 123 resource finder. So this directory lets you search different resources, and you can either type in a resource you might be looking for. It is like auto-populated. So if you hover over this search button, it'll say like, I'm looking for parenting resources or food resources. You can also navigate it by clicking on a category or subcategory if you want to learn more about what's in your area. And then this is an example. Say in the dropdown, you say, I need help with parenting. You can put in your city, state, or zip, and it'll pull up resources that are the most relevant to you. And so, yeah, that's kind of a tool that you can use on your own just to see what resources are out there. And then another way to connect with Help Me Grow Washington is, I mentioned, filling out a short form to see if you qualify for state benefits. And actually, I'm also going to share the link to the Help Me Grow Washington website if you want to peruse that on your own time. But if you go to the Help Me Grow Washington website and scroll down to the screen button, I can also put this in the chat. So this is a way to see if you are eligible or likely eligible for resources such as basic food, food stamps, WIC, and it'll ask some more high-level questions of what's your zip code, what are you looking for today, what's your monthly income before taxes, how many people in your family / household. And then once you submit that information, a specialist would call you back to walk through different resources that you might be eligible for and help you navigate that process and answer any questions. And then the third way I mentioned is calling our statewide hotline. We do have 2 local hotlines, one in Skagit County and one in Central Washington. And so there's resource navigators that live and work in Skagit County and Central Washington that if you live in those areas can help you navigate resources more locally. Otherwise, we do serve the state of Washington, and so anyone can call our hotline and yeah, they can help you get connected to Help Me Grow resources. And we can serve you in your language. We have bilingual and bicultural staff who speak Spanish, and other languages are served using interpreters via the AT&T language line. And we don't have any time quotas or anything like that. And so specialists will really take their time to explain any resources, do follow-up via text or email, whatever is most convenient, and really help you along the way. And yeah, that's all I had prepared. So I'm happy to take any questions or yeah, I can go back to a slide or whatnot. And here's my contact information if you have any questions after the presentation.
Next guest is going to be joining us. She had another commitment, and so I am going to be your friendly time filler until she gets here. I do have more resources that I wanted to share, and so I'm going to bring my screen up as well, and then we'll continue on from there. So my screen sharing is paused. Okay. Sorry. Evidently, I can't share my screen and record at the same time. So, are you all seeing the Welcome to the CARES Resource Night slide?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that I have too many buttons to push here. So, my name is Luann Marshall, and I am with the Alliance CARES program. And CARES is the contracted services program with Children's Services. So they have open for bid 2 different contracts. One is for recruitment and one is for retention. So there is another organization that does recruitment of foster parents and caregivers. And then we are the ones that are contracted to help retain folks once they go through the licensing process. So we have been with this contract. This is year 3. And there are 5 of us that have been working on this. 2 of us have been here since the very beginning, and we've changed out a couple of our staff. But we are here. We have a webpage that you can go to learn more about what we do. It's at alliancecares.org. And so I thought I would just show you a little bit about what that looks like. So I'm going to switch over to the actual page here. You can see that the different titles up here talks about the program in general. Then we list support groups. We have a special category for those that are doing kinship care. And then we also have a lot of information in Spanish. We do list the courses with the Alliance program that you signed up for this one on. We are a part of the Alliance, but we really have nothing to do with the course section of that program. We're just all under one contract together. So once you are licensed, or if you want to explore our page here, you can just click on the map of the county where you live. And most of you know that our state is divided into 6 regions, and we broke it down even further. So like I live in Pierce County. So if I clicked on Pierce County, that would take me to Region 5's page. And then it would have all the resources there. It would introduce me to the mentor that is in our region, which is Nathan Lachine. And then it would list community events that we're doing. We keep this updated for every month, and so those are there. Any trainings that are listed for the month, you can see there as well. And most of those are statewide, they're not region specific. And then we also have a resource page that you can click on for statewide resources. And these are things like caregivers get to go camping for free with your foster children. So when you go onto the Washington State Park site, those of you that like camping in the summertime, there's a box on their site that says, are you a foster parent or a caregiver? And you click that box and they will waive the fees for camping. I believe you still have to pay the registration fee for using their site. I haven't been on there forever because I don't have any foster kids in my care. And you do have to take the kids with you. It won't be something that you can use as a getaway for you as the parents. You do have to have a child in tow. So that's one of the things that is open statewide. There are different camps, different projects that you can see that are listed here. These are specific to Region 5. But statewide, we also have like free access to the Seattle Aquarium, the Pacific Science Center. There is a discount for going to Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium. So check out a lot of the resources. We are doing a resource fair next month. Let me check my notes really quick to see when that is. I will be coming back to share all of the resources for summer events on, oh, that's May, no wonder I can't find it, on June 11th. So we'll be advertising that. And then we also will be having the Sensory Tool House folks join us on June 4th for neurodiversity and summer regulation. So taking your kids out in the summer that have a little bit harder time when they get around crowds and get overly excited around events. So they're going to be coming and sharing more information about how to handle that for the summer. So those are all there. Mentors and specialists. You can see Camille, who was our first speaker, is one of our specialists, and she does trauma-informed caregiving. And then Krista is our permanency specialist. So if you're going through adoption and you have questions, she is the one that can help with that. And Christina is our statewide mentor. She knows a lot of the resources statewide. And so she will be there to help answer questions. If you have a mentor, then you know that they contact you and just talk you through the licensing process, follow up once you have a placement in your home, are there to chat with whenever there's an issue that comes up that they can help with. They'll help with resources. If you don't have a mentor and you would like one, just give me a holler and we can get one assigned to you. Deshauna is our culturally conscious caregiver specialist, and Nathan is our LGBTQIA plus community specialist. Sylvia is our Spanish speaking community specialist. And then I am in the process of onboarding our Native American specialist and our medically fragile specialist. Seems like there's one more, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a long day, sorry. So at the bottom, there is the button where you can get help. If you want, you can give us a call or you can email us at alliancecares@uw.edu. We also have the first program. If you're going through an allegation and need some support, we have someone there to talk to you with that. And then all of the trainings that are offered in any given month are also listed here for your convenience. You can just click on whatever you're interested in and it'll take you to the page to register for those classes. So that is a little bit about the CARES program and what we offer on our website. I'm trying not to make anybody sick as I scroll back up there. We also have our support groups, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a bit. It just dawned on me that I don't have my participant screen open in case our next speaker pops in. So we do list here like our topic support groups, and they are also listed on the Alliance web page. But you can find whatever you're looking for here under all these titles. We have fabulous book clubs, and I have, there she is. So we have lots of different trainings that are going on, and you can find those here. And then we record all of our special events. Hi, Kelsey. And so you can find them here under event recordings. So we have what we call Education Resource Wednesday that we do every other month. And we bring in people from the school system and they come in and talk about some helpful things that would help with the education of the children in your care. We record our special events like the one tonight. We had one on interstate compacts just recently, ICPCs for those of you that are working with those. And then on the off months from Education Resource Wednesday, we have Wellness Resource Wednesday, where we have different topics about taking care of our kids. So you can watch all of those there. And then we also have different drop-in groups and community groups. So any questions on the CARES program? And then I'm going to turn it over to our next speaker.
I have two really quick, sorry.
That's okay.
I always have so many questions. So I'm adopting a daughter who is half Native American and half white, but she didn't qualify as under the tribe. So I'm just curious, when she gets older, is she able to use resources from the tribe, even if she's like 48%, for example, Yakima? Or would those sources not apply to her because she's not full 50% or more?
Oh, yeah, it depends on every tribe's quantum. And it depends on their clinic or their services. Like I
Okay.
am Ogallala Sioux from South Dakota, but I'm able to access the Puyallup tribal services. They open their resources to Native Americans that are from other tribes, but some tribes don't do that. So it would be specifically with the Yakima tribe that you would have to check and see.
Okay, and then my one other question is, would we have access to these resources after we adopt her, or is it only for foster parents that would have Alliance Cares resources available to them?
Oh, no, you can have a CARES mentor anytime. So, yeah,
Okay,
and you
thank
can go to
you.
anything, any of the groups. Yeah, we're here to help support in any way we can. So even if you adopt your way out, we would still be here to support you. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to let Kelsey come on.
An intervention program. And I will go ahead and share my PowerPoint here.
Oops.
Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Mhm.
All right, great. And if any immediate questions come up as I'm talking, just come off camera, interrupt me, no problem. Okay, so the goal of Eddie is we keep track of all 84,000-ish births in Washington State every year to make sure that all of those babies and their families are at least offered a hearing screening, whether they were born in a birth hospital or with a midwife or transferred in from out of state to Seattle Children's or where have you. And we make sure they're offered one. And then for babies who do not pass that hearing screening, we also conduct all of the follow-up to make sure that they get repeat hearing screenings and diagnostic audiology testing. And then if a hearing loss is diagnosed, we help to make sure that family also gets enrolled in early intervention or early support services. So we are a team of 3 people who are keeping track of all these babies. Julie Walker is our program manager, and then I'm Kelsey Davis under her follow-up coordinator. And then our other follow-up coordinator is Anna Dodd. Julie's been with the program for a really long time, about a decade, and I'm a little newer, almost 2 years here. And then Anna just joined us last summer, and she actually used to work with early intervention at the Hearing, Speech, and Deaf Center in Seattle. So early intervention is primarily Anna's focus, but I'm going to do my best. If y'all have any really good questions come through, I'm going to consult them tomorrow and maybe have to get back to you on their answers, but we're going to go through a couple of things here today. So we already talked about our acronym. We're just the EDDI team for Washington State. Every state does have an EDDI program, though I will say that Washington State is the only program with that extra D as in David in there. So all the other states just have one D in their acronym. And so all state EDDI programs follow these national, what are called 136 goals or guidelines. So the goal of hearing screen programs in every state, we want to make sure that all babies receive a hearing screening by the time that they're 1 month old. And that's going to include the initial hearing screen that happens in the birth hospital or with the midwife. And it's also going to include any repeat hearing screening that needs to be done as well. So babies can have up to 2 chances at the hearing screen before we are concerned enough and we want them to see a hearing specialist, which is called an audiologist. So that brings us to that 3 goal. So infants who do not pass 2 separate hearing screenings complete a diagnostic hearing evaluation with a pediatric audiologist by the time they are 3 months old. And then the 6th goal is infants who have been identified as deaf or hard of hearing. We want them to start early support services, also called early intervention, before they are 6 months old. And why these goals are happening so quickly is because we know that the moment babies are born, they're taking in everything, their brains are taken off, they want stimulus, they want input, and that is how they're going to learn language, whether that is spoken language or manual language. They're ready for communication, but we often operate under the assumption that their ears are working immediately from birth. Hearing loss is an invisible disability. I'm someone with hearing loss. I wear a hearing aid, so this is very important to me. And babies can't tell us if they can hear or not. And it's not enough to see them startle when a door slams. We want to make sure that they can hear whispers and secrets as well. And so that's kind of the purpose of the hearing screening and making sure all this follow-up is happening quickly so that we can catch things if there are things to be caught and then address them. How common are hearing differences? Hearing loss is actually the most common condition that a baby can be born with. So about 1 to 3 babies per 1,000 are born with hearing differences or a hearing loss. Every year, what that comes out to in Washington State, we have about 170 babies born in Washington State who are identified with hearing loss by the time they're 3 months old. And then on top of that, for people who may be listening in who maybe don't have a baby but might have an older child, the thing with hearing loss is we're actually going to see that number double by the time that children reach school age. So by the time children reach school age, another 1 to 3 per 1,000 children are going to become deaf or hard of hearing at some point in those transitional childhood years, because we have something called progressive or late onset hearing loss. That's going to include different genetic factors that don't show up until kids are a little older or out of their newborn state. You're going to have head trauma, meningitis, different syndromes children might have. Hearing loss can happen after the newborn period. And so a hearing test tells you how that baby is hearing at that point in time. It doesn't tell you how that baby's hearing the next day or the day after that or when they're a year old. So the thing we want to look out for are the language milestones. How's their speech coming along? How are their social interactions? If there's ever a concern with how a child is responding to sound, or maybe behaviorally something seems off, or maybe they're really tired or don't seem as responsive, if there are ever any condition or concerns with how a child is developing, I would always recommend getting their hearing tested on top of any other tests you might be doing, because other things can present that are actually because of hearing loss. And this is just kind of a graph showing you over the years in Washington State how many babies have been identified. So it starts back to around 2007. We had about 124 babies identified. And then our numbers have gotten higher. We're identifying more children with hearing loss at earlier ages. Part of that is, our technology is getting better. We have more buy-in from hospitals and audiologists and doctors who are encouraging hearing screening to happen. And we're also getting better data, better reporting of results from all of those stakeholders as well. In the newborn period, there are two different types of technology that are going to be used to do a newborn hearing screen. One of those on the left is what's called an automated auditory brainstem response. Any baby who is in the NICU, this is the type of screen that they should be receiving. This test is measuring brain activity. So it's actually measuring how well the ears can take sound outside of their body from the environment, move it from the ears through the middle ear system, up to the hearing nerve, and all the way up to the brainstem. So NICU babies are at a higher risk for a type of hearing loss that is called neural hearing loss, and it's a brain type of hearing loss. And they're at a higher risk because of the different kinds of treatments and problems going on with babies that have longer stays in the NICU. Brain systems are more likely to be impacted, which can result in the neural hearing loss. And then the other type of hearing screen that can happen is the one on the right. It's called an autoacoustic emission. It's a little bit of a simpler setup. You just have a little earphone you put in the ear, baby sleeping, you push a button, screen's usually done pretty quickly. Versus the ABR, you're going to have a few more stickers around the baby's head because that's what's picking up on the brainstem response. And then you're also going to have that earphone that goes in their ear as well. The OAE is also a hearing test. It cannot catch neural hearing loss. It's not testing baby's auditory system all the way up to the brainstem. It's only testing up to the level of what's called the cochlea. It's a structure in the ear that is where most of your hearing loss is going to be found. And I believe Luann's going to send out these slides if she hasn't already. All of these links I have on the slides are clickable, and they're going to take you directly to a document to consult. So these two links that are listed, if you're in Western Washington and you click that one, it's going to bring you to a list of different hospitals, midwives, and audiology clinics in Western Washington with their phone number and up to how old they can test a child in their clinic. So if you have a child in your care and you want their hearing to be screened, this is the list to consult. And then you also have the secondary list for Central and Eastern Washington locations as well. And children can be tested at any age. There's no too young or no too old. Any child can be tested at any age. This next slide has a link to some brochures that a lot of our birth hospitals in Washington State use, and they will mark the results in here. These are some links to some different languages the brochure is available in. And it also has a list of milestones so that families can keep track and make sure the children in their care are meeting those milestones. If they're ever not, you can bring it up with the child's primary care physician and say, hey, I'm concerned, can we do a hearing screen? Whether that's in the primary care office or they might refer you to another clinic to get that done. But again, it can always be done at any age. Next slide is another educational document. It's actually a video. It's about 3 minutes long. It kind of walks you through the newborn hearing screen, the importance of it. I'm not going to play it, but if you'd like to view that, you'll have access to that. So if a baby doesn't pass that hearing screen piece, we're going to refer them for diagnostic hearing testing. This is a more intensive series of tests that are done. It's a longer visit, and they're testing different types of the auditory system to see where might the problem be. Is it the ear canal? Is it the middle ear? Is it ear infections? Is it a true hearing loss? Is it neural hearing loss happening in the brain? These appointments can be anywhere from 1 to 3 hours long. It just depends how old the child is and which types of testing they're going to try to do at that appointment. And then some babies and children need a little more incentive to cooperate with testing, so they kind of block off a little more time for that one because they don't want to get as much information as they can. And then that third bullet point is a link to a list of pediatric audiology clinics in the state of Washington. All clinics on that list are going to be able to test children of any age for the diagnostic testing. And we have some primary care physicians who will refer families to like regular ear, nose, and throat clinics. Not every ear, nose, and throat clinic has a pediatric audiologist on staff. So for children who do not pass 2 hearing screens, we really want to make sure that they're seeing somebody on this pediatric audiology list, just because all they do all day is test children of all ages and all abilities and all medically complex circumstances and all social situations. So they're very good at what they do, versus your general audiologist at an ear, nose, and throat clinic who maybe sees a kid a week and doesn't really see the whole spectrum of possibilities with a child. This slide has some links to brochures that have many more details about the specific kinds of testing that happens in a diagnostic hearing testing appointment. So for infants and any child who's identified as deaf or hard of hearing, they're automatically going to qualify for early support services. And the thing with deaf and hard of hearing children is while they may already be enrolled in other early intervention services, OT, PT, speech language, what have you, we want to make sure that children who are identified as having a hearing loss are also going to be referred to specifically deaf and hard of hearing early support services. So even if, yes, they're already enrolled in OT for something, that doesn't mean that that OT provider or that servicer is the best person for the deaf and hard of hearing piece of that child. So that is a link that we're really trying to work on with audiologists and primary care providers, because they're like, oh, they're already taken care of. They have this syndrome. And it's like, yes, but there are these specialists who are really specific to deaf and hard of hearing pieces that also need to be involved in the child's care. And so there are 3 different places where that referral to a deaf and hard of hearing specific service can be made. The audiologist can make it in the same appointment when they're diagnosing that child with hearing loss. The child's primary care provider can also make that referral as well. And then if the families aren't having success with either of those, they can also self-refer to a DHH agency. And then of course, each of those is going to require the family's consent before that referral can be made. And then you have early support services, which are from birth to 3 years of age. That link is to the ESIT statewide directory. If you want to find out the contact information for your specific county, that would be the link to go to. And then children who are 3 years of age and older can receive special education services through their school district. And then I missed it, but I know we had someone from Within Reach on here as well. And so that's a link to their Within Reach website and then their Help Me Grow program as well. So those are 2 different links in that bullet point. And so as we touched on DHH specific services, are essential for children who are deaf and hard of hearing. They often involve teachers of the deaf. So those are teachers who have specialized certification to teach families and their children who are deaf or hard of hearing. They help them understand their child's hearing status, how that piece is going to affect their language, their cognition development, their social development, how they interact with the world, their inner language with themselves, how are they thinking the thoughts they have if they can't hear or they have compromised hearing, what does all that look like, how does it feed into those other services the family's receiving, PTOT, all of those. They're also going to be able to assist families specifically with hearing technology the child might have, cochlear implants, hearing aids, FM systems to help you hear in the classroom. Some providers who are deaf and hard of, or who are those specialists are also deaf and hard of hearing themselves. So it helps to interact with an adult who has that lived experience. It just adds an extra layer of connection for the family and the service provider. And all of those things are going to feed into language and social emotional development for that child as they get older and progress after this hearing loss piece is found out. Another educational material, it's a video that Department of Health, we actually interviewed several families who are Washington State families. Their children were born in Washington State hospitals. They went through the newborn hearing screen process and diagnosis, and their child was diagnosed. They enrolled in early support services. And so they each talk about their experience in the system and how helpful it was for them and how grateful they were for it. These are two other documents that link to different languages. There's a care plan. So when a family receives news of the diagnosis, there's a lot going through their mind. This is kind of a one sheet piece to keep track of providers and information from appointments. The family resource notebook is a resource that is given to all families. Usually at the audiologist office, they have hard copies in their office that they give to the family at the time of the diagnosis. It's a big resource notebook, spiral bound, lots of information about the ear and hearing loss and levels and technology and resources. We are currently updating this document, and it is accessible online, but we are going to have a new version posted at some point this year. These are other resources as support for families. We have the Washington Hands and Voices Guide by Your Side program. That is actually a family-to-family support group. They have parent guides who have been trained to assist families who are new to the hearing loss diagnosis. Each of the parent guides has their own child who has a hearing loss diagnosis, and they've been through all of the educational components and the support groups. Just another lived experience piece. Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Youth is another Washington State resource, and they provide services to deaf and hard of hearing children around the state when their county might not have a specific deaf and hard of hearing person on staff. They're a really good resource, and they also help run the state school for the deaf. And you also have your Washington Sensory Disability Services as well, and all those links link to that program's website. These are some resources related to specific communication modalities. There are many options for how families choose to communicate with their child. American Sign Language, listening and spoken language, where it's a combination of both. Some pursue signing exact English, which is different from sign language. And so those are just links to those specific communication modalities if anybody wants more information on them. We reviewed a lot. I think the main takeaway that I want to give is if you have a child in your care and you're concerned about how they're responding to you, or maybe there's concern about a behavioral or an emotional component, I would always recommend just testing the hearing as part of whatever else is being done. Because oftentimes there's more than one thing going on and you never know until you test it. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Kelsey. Any questions anyone has? No? Okay. And like Kelsey said, I do have the handouts that she has shown her slides, so I will include those in a follow-up email. Alrighty, well, thank you for joining us, Kelsey. I can return you to your evening if you would like, and I will finish up the resources that I have left and then send everybody on their way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, before I finish with my resource list that I have, we had 5 tickets returned for the foster parent appreciation baseball game with on Sunday. So I know it's Mother's Day, but if anybody is interested in going and would like free tickets, can you give me a holler after this or just shoot me a message over in the chat section and then I can coordinate and make sure that you get those tickets? I'm not a huge sports fan, so I can't even tell you anything more about it. All I know is that I was asked to please talk about it here and see if anybody was interested in that. So the last thing that I would like to do is to finish a little bit more resources just in general. So when we are talking about the care stuff, there are support groups that are specific to the age group that we're talking about tonight. So we have our practical parenting skills for caregivers. We have a group that's called Littlest Lives and Their Big Needs, which talks about the ages and stages of development. And the support groups are based on participation from those that are attending. It's not like a class where you're going to listen to a lot of different information. It's learning from each other and talking about the needs. It is a directed conversation. There are questions that the presenter will present for topic conversations, but otherwise it's an evolved group for those that are participating. And I talked about the Wellness Resource Wednesday, and then we have one called Using Storytime for Connection and Support. So when I send you these slides, these 2 are all clickable links that will take you to the registration pages. If you have never attended a CARES book club, I would highly recommend them. We have 3 different ones on TBRI, which is the latest rage. So we have the one on a connected parent, the connected therapist, and the connected child, which are all books by Karen Purvis. And then we also have Dancing with a Porcupine, which was a book that was written by a foster parent and sharing her experience. And the one that I can't say I like the most, but I really do, is the FASD, Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorder, Trying Differently Rather Than Harder. It's a real easy read. The book is just packed with information. And if you have a child that may be on the fetal alcohol spectrum, I think that is a great course to get involved with. We also have all of these trainings through the Alliance. I teach specifically the impacts of prenatal drug exposure and caring for drug-impacted infants and toddlers. So some of you have been to those classes. Otherwise, you can see that there's some basic classes here for the age group that we're talking about. And I'm not spending a lot of time on them because I'm going to send them to you. So the iLabs are e-learning, so they're not like physically go into the class. These are classes that you can take at any point in time and get credit for them. And you can see all the different topics that are there within these iLabs. The power of learning through imitation, the importance of early interactions, learning to make things happen, how kids learn cause and effect. Lots and lots of different opportunities for getting more information on all of those things. And like I said, all of these are through the Alliance training manual, our catalog, so you can go in and register for those. We do have specific programs through DCYF if you are licensed with them. You may have heard about some of these, and if not, you would still have access to these programs. We have the Early Support for Infants and Toddlers, which is the ESIT program. And this link will take you to that page and you can learn more about it. And then we also have community resource page. And the last one listed on the bottom there is with DSHS for statewide resources. If you have a child that needs speech therapy or sight therapy, there are some agencies listed here and more resources. There are more for oh, too late, I can't talk. Mobility equipment. If you have a child that has the need for like adaptive strollers, a bathing chair, a wheelchair, anything, an adaptive car seat, there are agencies out there that will help with those. So if your insurance, if you've already used your allotted amount for your insurance coverage for the child, then there are other places that will help as well. So that they're listed here. Autism, if you think that that is something that you're dealing with your child, there are a lot of clinics out there to contact and get some testing done. So those are listed here. And I know I'm going through them fast, but like I said, I'm going to send you these slides so you'll have them. And then therapy services. There are a lot of therapists out there, a lot of different specialized services that you can check into. And you can always check if your child's on Apple Care or coordinated care. You can always contact your service provider directly and they can give you referrals and resources. We have the nutrition and feeding therapy programs. Most hospitals have those. So usually if your child is involved at Children's Hospital or Mary Bridge or one of the hospitals on the eastern side of the state, they will refer you to their feeding teams there in their hospital. If you have a child that has a genetic or a rare disease, or you don't know if they do, but you suspect, there are other resources here to help you with that. And then the last one are some kid-centered sites. If you have a child who is feeling like they may be different than everybody else, or they don't know how to handle what's going on in their life with some of the diagnoses that they're getting, Sesame Street, I think, is one of the best for tackling the issues that kids face. And they have some pretty specific interactions with kids and tapes for kids to watch, and they just talk things out with the puppets, which sometimes makes it easier for our kids to process and come up with questions that maybe they haven't thought of before. And then there's one for families as well called Informing Families. So that's all I have to share. Does anybody else have any resources that you would like to share with the rest of us?